Hello and welcome back to Friendly Notice, the series where I try and help you basically with just basic computer issues. If you've watched my previous videos, this may be a little bit differently. It's not perhaps a cautionary, more as an explanation. Now, when you first get your computer, be it a tower or a laptop, the initial setup is something that people generally don't know how to do. If you've built your computer your own, you are probably knowledgeable enough to set it up, but most people will just purchase it either used or from somewhere else and therefore set it up at home by themselves. Sometimes there are companies that allow for setup if you get it through them, but most of the time people trying to save money thinking they can do it themselves. Which, yes, each person out there, any person listening to this, you can. You can set up your computer by yourself. Now, here's the thing you need to know. The computer, it is basically a box. In order to see what is on the box, you need to have a monitor. In order to manipulate things that are on the screen, you need to have a keyboard or a mouse. Unless, of course, you have a touchscreen, which that isn't a basic setup, so let's avoid that at the moment. So, when you first get your computer home, you set it on the ground, you set it on your desk, wherever it may be. You need to make sure it has a power cord that goes into a power source. You need to make sure it has some way to connect to the monitor. You need to make sure that it has a connection of your mouse into it and that the keyboard is connected into it. All of these can connect into the back, and they all pretty much have just a one sort of fit all area for them. There is two forms of keyboards and mice, which is a PS2 I believe, or a PS2 or USB. There are other versions out there, but these are the two most common. If it's a USB, it looks like a rectangle and goes straight into it. If it's a PS2, it's a round one that has several kind of like holes into it. The keyboard is purple color coded and the mouse is green. You just simply install it in there. And let me say now, you want to do this all while it's off and potentially while it's unplugged. You want to hook this all up, and then once everything is hooked up, put it in the power. But anyway, let's continue. You plug in the mouse, the keyboard, the monitor, then you go ahead and need to plug in a way to get internet. Most often nowadays it comes from a router, it may come from a switch if someone else set it up, it may even come from a modem in some instances. In essence, there needs to be a cable that looks very similar to an old-time phone cable, just a little bit bigger, that goes from something into the back of your computer. This is what allows you to get internet access. And that is, again, if you have a tower. Once all these things are installed, you can go ahead and plug in the power for your monitor, and then you can plug in a power cable for your tower. On the back of towers, there's usually a little switch. Nowadays, it's not so common, but basically, look at it this way. Circle is your friend, line isn't. What I mean by this is as soon as you turn on the switch so that the line is pushed inward and not raised, that means that there's power going directly to the case, and therefore everything will be powered up and ready for you to press the power button on the front of the tower and get going. The monitor itself also has a power button. It's usually directed on the front. It could be along the base of it. It could be along the sides of it. Every monitor is a little bit different. More or less, it's either going to be in the bottom right-hand corner, in the center, or on times on the right-hand side of the monitor. And this should not be dependent upon the same power source as the tower. You need to make sure that it is plugged into power as well, and once it has power and once everything is interconnected, everything will turn on, everything should work properly, and if it doesn't, you may need to go through some prompts through the screens itself, or you can just simply call your local IT company and ask them some questions. Now, a laptop. Laptops are far, 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 far easier. By this I mean they already come assembled. There is no external parts that you need to plug in there other than for user preference. Now by this I mean if you want speakers, and if you want speakers on a tower, there is usually 3 circles on the back of it that look like for headphones. In the middle of this there should be a green color coded one that you can plug in the power cable for speakers, or it may be, in some instances, USB, and in some instances it could be the circular part goes into the computer and USB for power, or otherwise it could be that the speakers need to be plugged into a power source as well. And this is the same case when it comes to laptops. If you want external speakers, that is the case. If you want external keyboard, USB is usually the only option. If you want a mouse, USB again is usually the only option. But otherwise, you just need to make sure it has power. Pressing the power button should allow it to be turned on right away. And once it is, all you need to do is charge it initially whenever it goes dead. It is a good idea to let your laptop run to the point where it is pretty much dead or going to die, being that all of them are shipped with a kind of standard charge within them, and by running it down to literally being almost dead, or in some instances allowing it to actually drain out, and then charging it from there until it is full and then unplugging it, can actually prolong the life of it. And by this I mean do not leave it plugged in all the time. That can actually cause harm to the battery itself and drain it and cause it to be kind of flaky and therefore not work properly. And in this instance, you're kind of going to have to pay more to get things replaced over a while, and can actually drain out your AC adapter, the power source for laptops too. Only really plug it in when it needs it. It's kind of similar to a wristwatch. It has a battery source, and with laptops, it can be charged. Only charge it when you need to. Don't leave it in all the time. That is what a tower is for, a computer tower. It needs to be plugged in all the time to operate. And when it comes to a laptop, it can be plugged in similarly to a tower, which is through an Ethernet cable, which looks like a thicker phone cable, or most of them have wireless. And again, towers can have wireless too. However, my experience with it has not been that great. There's too many variables. It makes it a little bit sketchy. If there's too many working parts, it could mean that your connection is a little bit weaker, not as crisp, so to speak. Hardwire is always going to be more crisp in my personal opinion than wireless, just because there's direct contact, direct linking in. So therefore that's my opinion on that. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I'll try to help you as best I can. And if this has helped you at all, please share this information so that all of us can kind of surf the web and kind of have a computing experience that's pretty safe and easy. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice one. Bye.